Brian, can you hear me now? No. Okay. We're having some technical difficulties. We're trying to figure this out here quick. Technology is not my forte. Brian, I can hear you just fine.
Hey, Abigail. We're starting this interview a few minutes late. I might be a few minutes late for session. I will be there, though.
Yeah, I'm not able to figure this out right now. No bueno. I'm sorry, everybody that's currently watching. Oh, can you hear me now, Brian? Can you hear me? No. We got Gabriel in here trying to figure out the back end. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I can see both of us. I can hear Brian, but Brian can't hear me.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
You can hear me? All right. For some reason, I'm not getting your audio, but that might be on my end. Perfect.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, man.
You can hear me. Okay, awesome. What's up, brother? Good to see you.
Hey, man, I'm going to turn off my YouTube because I was on that watching for it to go live. Beautiful. We're doing it.
Yeah, sorry about that. Technology is not my forte at all. So I'm glad that Gabriel came in and helped us out with the overlay, and we got the audio figured out. Yeah, we've had a couple kinks over this week trying to get this here, but finally we're here. And yeah, it's so good to see you, brother, and really happy to have our chat.
As am I.
So yeah, I wanted to, I have as much time as you have today, so feel free to be as liberal or as conservative with your answers as you'd like. We can really dive into stuff, or we can do it relatively quick and easy. Really up to you how you want to go about it. But I want to first discuss I think this concept of breaking spells. Like everybody on this planet is under a whole host of spells, whether it's a personal spell or a societal spell, or spells that are imposed by all the different systems that we have in place. And I think these products are really, particularly Amanita, is really effective at helping one notice and see the spells that they're under, and then giving people options to move forward and dismantling those, or building up new spells maybe that are more productive, we'll say. But yeah, so first, how did you get into what you do, and what's your story? Like, what was your childhood like? What brought you to where you're at?
Cool, man. I will say, as far as the time, I have a group session that I'm committed to on the hour, and we can go deep in our nearly an hour that we have here together. I have, whenever I tell the story, I have two life stories, because there's I was born to a woman full of sadness and a man full of anger, with a existing brother and sister who were really miserable, and my life was just total hell. And I found religion at around 12, and I dove into it with everything that I had. And then at around 17, 18, I got handed my first self-help book. And I went, oh, so you can change your life and I made that my passion. My life was a absolute freaking train wreck from my childhood, and all the spells that I picked up about myself and about life and relationships. So I got into self-help, and self-help was really my life more than my life was my life. For the next 30 years, I put hundreds of thousands of dollars into it. I put tens of thousands of hours into working on myself, trying to get my shit together, trying to find what was wrong and fix it, which is the nature of the self-help industry. And my life got worse and worse and worse. And then at the lowest point that pretty much a human could meet, I was at the lowest point in my life for a few decades there, but at the lowest possible point, I'd been suicidal on and off for many years. If I didn't have kids, I absolutely would have put a gun in my mouth or jumped off a bridge happily to get out of the hell I was in. I had an awakening experience in 2011, January 3rd, around 10:30 in the morning. And I saw all the decades of inner work and quantum physics I had studied, and meditation and plant medicines I had done. I saw exactly down to the nuggets how I'm creating my reality, how everyone's creating their reality. And seeing that, I went from the idea that everything is one, all is one, everything is energy, and I'm creating my reality. I stepped into experiencing it. So everything changed in 2011. I got catapulted into the life of my dreams. I've been there ever since, helping people. The second life story starts at the same time, but around the age that I could talk, I have had a very unusual gift. I did not know it was a gift. In fact, it looked like a curse to me for those first few decades, but I've had this ability to meet someone, look at them, listen to them, and see how they were creating whatever they don't want in their life. Like, it's really strange what I do. I've now been looking for over 40 years for someone else who does what I do, and I haven't found them yet. My eyes are everywhere looking for anyone who does what I do, and I haven't seen it yet. And it just somehow boils down to I communicate with a person, they tell me what they're dealing with in whatever form it comes up for them. And if they're open to a different perspective, I help them come out of it. And the Spellbreaker thing is like how I got here. I was working with a lady who had been grieving. She accidentally killed her husband on their one of their honeymoon vacation trips. They were in Australia. And they got in a wreck. She was driving. She woke up in the back seat, or she woke up with her legs crushed. He's in the back seat, cold like a rock. And so for over 20 years, she was in this deep grieving place. She couldn't come out of it. And we had a conversation in about 15 minutes. She snapped out of it and she said, "Man, it's like I was under a spell. What the hell did you just do to me?" And just her grieving was over. She's been back into blissful life ever since. And she said, "It's like literally like you woke me up from a spell." And I told a couple of people close to me, and that name stuck. So for the last 8 years or so, I've been the Spellbreaker doing this. And we've helped over 300,000 people since we started the company in 2011 after that awakening experience. We got more testimonials than God. We double checked. And it's just amazing the number of people that are coming to this work and actually finally changing the stuff that they hadn't been able to change on year or decade long self-help journey.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you for doing what you're doing in the world, brother. Yeah, it's fun. When we first like got connected, I dug into you and I was like, this dude's super interesting. Like I want to get to know him more. And I dug in more and I was like, this stuff is really fascinating. Yeah, I really appreciate, you know, everything that you're doing and your unique skill set and, you know, the amount of good and healing and love that you're bringing to the world. So thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. And you know, the way I look at that, Christian, is I couldn't not do it. Like if I were to if I were to walk away from my business today, which I like, that's not my focus. My focus is on making the world I want to live in, really. But if I quit today and I went to the beach and I sat down, it'd be 10 minutes. Somebody would sit beside me, a conversation would start, and I'd be doing it again. So
Yeah. Oh, I know exactly how that goes. Like the path gets chosen for us, really when it comes down to it. And I mean, yeah, very, very similar boat. There have been times where I've tried to I'm like, oh, I'm on this path, but I can maybe also be on this path too, and the universe is like, nope, get back to this path real quick. I'm curious more about this awakening that you had. Like, what was there any like acute instance or instances? I know it was a culmination of 30 years, right? But like, was there anything acute that led into it, or was it just kind of a moment of instantaneous pure surrender? Or like, what did that look like?
Yeah. Oh man, it's one of my favorite questions. It's one of the more time-consuming answers, but I'll make it as simple as I can. So, as I say, I got into the self-help. I mean, got into religion around 12. Went to dozens and dozens of churches. When all the Christian stuff didn't quite deliver on what it was promising to me, it was Buddhism and then Hinduism, and then somebody handed me a copy of a Wayne Dyer book when I was right on the verge of 17, 18. And when I looked at that and I went, oh, so someone could change themselves. Well, fuck everything else. That's the only thing that matters to me. How do I fix and solve this? And so I dove in. Self-help and inner work was not a luxury for me. It was not a side interest. It was, I'm going to kill myself if I don't solve this. And as course after seminar after program didn't come through on what it was promising to me, and I was applying myself, I got more and more hopeless. So I was on this upward spiral of self-help that was taking me down into a deeper spiral of misery because none of it was doing 100% of what it claimed. And man, I tell you what, I reached this place in my 30s where it's just like, okay, I must be too broken to fix. Now, I will say a side note. Since then, I've worked with hundreds of thousands of people. 40% of my clients are coaches and therapists and healers and psychologists who find out the shit didn't work for them either. And it's crazy, man. I've polled and interviewed around 36,000, 38,000 people on this topic, and people that have worked on themselves for years or decades, done all the spiritual work, done medicines. 98% of them say that they, at the end, they either think that self-help is bullshit or that they're too broken to be fixed. It's unbelievable, the percentage. I never would have guessed it. And I thought it was just me. And so anyway, as my life got worse and worse, I got more and more knowledgeable. I joked that I was the world's most knowledgeable, miserable, positive thinker because I was applying it all, and shit got worse and worse and worse. And I ended up homeless a couple times. I was married at the time. My wife was pregnant. We had a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, and she was carrying our baby that was about 3 months from being born. And we ended up in a 1-room hotel in Van Nuys, California, smoggy capital of like, most anti thing in the world for me. I'm not a city guy at all. And then we got down to our last $45 and we were going to be put out on the street the next morning. And I had burned every bridge. I had gone to everybody that I could go to for help. I had exhausted everything that I knew of. So it was that, like, I had a 30-year dark night of the soul. And then it got to this point where you asked about surrender. I would say ultimately it was surrender. I woke up that morning that we were going to be put out on the street, and there was nothing that I could do. I was finally at the point where my endless frantic hole patching and quick fixing again, let me just get out of this hole one more time. I had no more ways out, and I just entirely gave up and surrendered and relaxed, actually. And I just had this catapult, a few hours of events that led to one moment where I completely let go. And I had the insight that came to me. It was so beautiful, man. It was almost as if something spoke it to me in words. When you release all resistance to what is, you can change anything. And I went, oh shit, it's the resistance that's keeping it. that's how I'm keeping my misery, by resisting it. The second I let all of that go, there's nothing holding it to me. And I was a minute and I was in heaven. Door opened that day, that morning. Money got sent to me to take over marketing for another company. 8 days later, I was on an all expense paid cruise into Bahamas, and 60 days later, I was living in Hawaii, where I've been living the dream ever since. It was just an instant catapult.
Wow, that's incredible. It's such an interesting concept because like it's conceptually, intellectually, it like makes sense, and it's something that a lot of people can intuitively understand. Like, yeah, when there's no resistance, like everything opens up. But then to have a moment where you embody it like fully, like that sounds very powerful. That's something that I think probably anybody listening, including and myself also, like it's like, yeah, I get it, of course, but of course there's still a little resistance here and there. What would life look like if that wasn't the case? So that's really powerful. um, I'm curious also when doing this is something that I have to come up against, every day, every second when doing work like this, work that really is a lot bigger than us and that impacts, thousands of lives. The the weight essentially is on me to ensure that I am the clearest vessel that I possibly can be, and that I am in the most alignment at possible at any given point in time, so that I can, act on the impulses as they come through from wherever they're coming through, and so that I can, best serve. And then I'm also human. I have my own ego. I have my own issues. So finding this balance and it's been something that I guess I could even say I struggle with, at times, but it's something that I'm very, very conscientious of and aware of, and consistently trying to, optimize myself and my system and my emotions and my spirituality, so that I can be the best vessel to bring, the most amount of healing and good to the world. So what's your like process with that, and how do you ensure that you're the ideal you, so that you can give the most?
Well, when we met up a couple days ago to do a first run at this, we had all the technical issues, and
Hmm.
you said, who knows, might get into some spell breaking on me at some point. Well, I never go there uninvited. I never go there lightly. And you're kind of asking a question that, okay, so I think the most smooth way for me to start my answer to that question, you spoke a lot of terms that are no longer true for me, like the weight and the heavy and the line. So one of the realities for me when someone asks me a question is that I'm no longer living in the world that you're describing. Literally, I'm not living in it anymore. And it's I don't mean that figuratively. I mean, when I let go of all resistance in that moment, all of my problems and issues and challenges ceased to exist. Now that's kind of weird, because that I have to, in order to explain this to someone who's still got a foot in that other world, in order for me to answer a question from someone who's still living in that other world, I kind of have to paint the difference between that world and the one that I'm living in now. Okay. So I don't have there's no weight in my universe. So you were talking about that way. I don't have it. I don't have any effort to try to be a best self. I'm not trying to be aligned. I'm not trying to stay connected. All of those are things that happen and that we perceive when we're still living in that world. And what happened for me in that moment of awakening, I don't really have another word for it, is that I stepped out of all of the conditioning, parental, cultural, societal, governmental, educational, religious, global. I stepped out of all of it. And so I don't think in any of those terms. What I do, and the way that I stay effective and expanding into what I prefer. Now that's the simple words I use for it. I am no longer trying to fix anything. I'm no longer trying to right any wrongs. I'm not living in a world where there's wrongs to right or brokenness to fix. So I'm under no obligation and no moral, oh, I've got to da, da, da. I look at what's in front of me. I love it. And I'm just guided by my true self. I'm no longer me, and then there's my infinite self. I'm both at the same time. So Brian is having an amazing time living and talking and doing what he does in a body, while I'm simultaneously my infinite self, who doesn't think in any of those terms or have any of those mental overlays that I'm trying to operate through, you know? So the questions might get different from there, and the answers definitely are different from there.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. I get that to an extent. You know, I've hit those areas for sure at points throughout my life. You know, multiple times, many times, but yeah, the consistency and perpetuality of it has not been a thing as much as I'd like it to be. But we can get into more into that in a little bit, if the conversation leads there. But I'm curious about, you know, this podcast is about these plant medicines that, you know, that brought us together initially, and you know, I know that you've been working with these for at least a couple few years at this point. You were around kind of like really in the early days for me starting this, which I really appreciated. So you were kind of one of the first to jump on the bandwagon, which and I noticed and knew immediately that you saw the potential and you saw what it was actually doing, which I really appreciated. So
Yeah.
where does all this come into play with your own personal story and then with your clients and you know, particularly Amanita? That's, you know, what I'm most, that's our bread and butter, of course, but really any of these other medicines. And then even too, like, you know, if you want to get into psychedelics and stuff at all, like all that is pertinent info that I'm curious about.
Beautiful. So as a kid, I got into marijuana at 14, and I'm 61. So that was like, you know, when dinosaurs ruled the earth, basically, that I found marijuana, and I instantly, absolutely unconscious, using it for escape, recreational stupidity, I would say, just unconscious. And yet I noticed that sometimes when I had different strains of herb, even as a kid, I would immediately go into insights and start to notice deeper things, you know. And then I got into, in my early teens, mescaline, LSD, different psychedelics, and something happened real young for me. I noticed that all the people around, I was a musician, I was around a lot of musicians and artists, and it became real quick where all the people that knew me would say, hey man, if you want to trip, you got to make sure you trip with Ridgway. You like, there's something about it. I had the ability to keep a foot on the ground. I mean, I'm telling you, I was the most fucked up human being. I was convinced that I was the most fucked up person in the world. My childhood really had me whacked with what I believed about myself. And yet, when it came to this realm, working with psychedelics from a very early age, I was obviously a shaman. I had no idea at that point what a shaman was. I had no, but everybody knew that if they tripped with me, I would be able to somehow keep one foot on the ground in case somebody started flying off, while at the same time communicating with people and kind of guiding them into different, more beneficial areas of awareness, rather than just, you know, freaking out looking at colors and shit. And so that was from way back. And then I had an ayahuasca experience about 15 years ago, really opened my eyes even more into my question, like, how am I creating this? How am I creating this? A few years later, I did a 10-day silent ayahuasca sit, which was revolutionary. About 9 years ago, I did a heroic dose no, it's about 12 years actually now. I did a heroic dose of psilocybin in a very controlled environment. And wow, that was amazing. So I've been on this journey moving in this direction for a long time. And then I had a friend of mine who mentioned Amanita to me. He lives in Poland. This story, you've probably heard a few of these, Christian, but he reached out to me. We worked together in some capacity. I was doing the business I do now, and he and I were working together a bit. And he said, man, you're the only person in the world I would tell this to. He's a pragmatic, serious, logical Polish guy. And he said, man, I was out in the woods and I saw one of these red and white mushrooms. And he said, this is the part I don't want to tell anybody, but you're the only person I know who's weird enough I could say this to. He said, this damn thing tells me to pick it up and take it home. And I was like, what in the world? So it said it was going to show me some things. And then he said, I worked with it for the last few months. And then I had the experience that it told me to share her with you. And just, there's a couple companies in the US. So I found a very popular YouTuber that I listened to as much as I could. And then that led to me finding you. And so I guess your website must have been pretty new. And my thought was, okay, this looks like the most amazing, it's not a plant, it's fungi, whatever, as if we knew what that was either. But it was just like, there's something completely different about this. And this is absolutely for me. And so got in contact with you, started working very much microdosing, very, very gentle. From what I had read and heard, my perspective was I respect all plants at this point. And I take them I work very, 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 very intentionally with them or not at all. And so I microdosed many times, having great experiences. On a day about a year and a half ago, I was in Seattle. We were doing an interview in downtown Seattle. And a good buddy of mine, we decided to have a bit of Amanita and do the podcast. And then as we were beginning to feel the Amanita, step out, walk right across the city out into the mountains and get out in nature for several hours. And so I ended up, one thing led to another. I ended up having mine, a larger amount than I had. And then when he didn't finish his and he handed it back to me, he had not stirred his. So I had about twice as much. And as we were stepping out into the city, I was meeting Amanita on not quite a trip dose, but she was talking to me. It was intense. And now this is where the trippy part of this. So I ended up the next day communicating with, I had quite an experience being in downtown Seattle with that experience and all the things that Amanita showed me and communicated to me. Wow.
Well, I want to hear about that. Let's dive into that a little bit. What was it like meeting Amanita at that level for the first time in that type of experience?
Okay, well then to go there, just whatever happens, remind me if I because I don't really try to hold my train of thought anymore. So what happened with my buddy who introduced her to me when we talked the next day? So, all right. So as she started to come on for me, I noticed there every time I microdosed, there was hints of deeper awareness. I would touch awarenesses on different things, more root concepts like time itself, space itself, and deeper connections. Now, something that's easy to forget until we were living in this state constantly, all concepts of connection that we're talking about all the time, go to be, finding your connection with blah, blah, blah. All is one. There is no connection. Connection is just a misinterpretation along the way. However, when we're perceiving we're disconnected, that connection seems like something. It seems really wonderful, right? So seeing the actual oneness behind illusions, I would get glimpses of it every time I microdosed. And in this experience, I saw it and felt it in its entirety, just complete oneness. My buddy that I was there communicating with, we were not two bodies communicating, we were two cells in the same body communicating. And I experience that 24/7 now, oneness, which is, it's the weirdest thing, because when I'm with someone who isn't living in oneness, all I can do is talk about it and point to it. You know, doing medicine, sometimes there is, oh, whoa, here we both are. Wait, there's not two. So that's what was happening for me in downtown Seattle as we were walking along the waterfront. And I'm seeing, oh, it was an endless series of, expanding awareness of oneness. Really. We could get more specific, but that was it.
Oh, yeah.
So, ended up, he had a couple things come up, and I did what I do. I worked with him, and I found that working with someone from the space of working with Amanita myself, like I don't miss when I'm working with someone. It's what I'm here to do. It's just what I am, really. However, doing it from Amanita, the things that were coming through and things I was saying, that any one of them could have been gold plated and you know, put out for anyone who wants to look at it, and they would have an awakening experience from it. So went through that, had the most incredible dreams. The next morning, I woke up and I had a message from the guy who introduced Amanita to me a year and a half earlier ish. And he said, Brian, did you have any Amanita yesterday? And I said, actually, yeah, the biggest dose I've ever had by far. And he said, okay, yesterday I had this. He said, you know how I told you a while back that I had the weirdest experience and you were the only person that I could tell a mushroom met me on the path and said, take me home. He said, well, yesterday she showed me something else. She said, I had this moment where I saw you and I felt like you were here with me. And I felt Amanita, and it was like you and me and her were one thing. And she told me the reason why I had you find me on the path one day was because Brian, in a different life, is a Slavic Amanita shaman, and he's working with people.
Cut out, Brian.
Yeah, something happened to my camera. You got the end of that?
Okay, I got you back. No. I cut off at the Slavic shaman.
It was probably too important for the internet. Just shook something up. Yeah, he said literally that she said to him, he said that's his weirdest thing yet, that she told him the reason that I found you that day on the path was because I wanted to get back to him. He's a Slavic shaman in a different lifetime working with me, and I wanted to get to him now so that he could share me with more people in other parts of the world.
Fascinating. That's incredible.
Yeah, I figured that would be familiar for you, actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, like I've told my story countless times on this platform and other platforms, but like, when I found, I was in the middle of my darkest time, ready to take my life, like seriously, like contemplating it, like probably weeks away from actually pulling the proverbial trigger. And I was on a hike. This is the super condensed version. I was on a hike, and I found, I saw this patch of mushrooms growing, and they spoke to me. Like, and a lot of people are like, we have an ad that we run that has me telling this story, and it's, and I say in this story, like, they spoke to me, and there's lots of comments like, you should probably get that checked out, like people, because people think it's insane, but in reality, I mean, it's like such a strong intuitive knowing that it feels like it could be nothing else, like, and it was in English too. It was like, maybe it wasn't necessarily in English, but the brain interprets it and linearizes it in English for me. And what it was is they told me, we have something for you, and in return, you're going to do something for us. And like I knew it so intuitively and so strongly. And so yeah, I get that. And then it's a consistent story with people that are really on this mission. Because one of the things about, it's such an interesting, it's arguably the most iconic symbol in the world, or at least one of them, like top few most iconic symbols in the world.
Yep.
It's primed into our systems, into our DNA. It's been prevalent for at least a couple thousand, I mean really thousands and thousands of years. And so when people, and then there seems to be this like really in-depth past life connection with various individuals, like particularly the people that are on the path at a level to where they're like helping get it out to the world. Like it's, you know, I'm sure that I've had glimpses into these, but I've had lives where Amanita was very prevalent, you know, as sounds like you have as well. And so, but then also it's like, you know, it's as if like people's DNA, nervous system, spirit is primed for it. And with certain people, once it activates inside of their system, like a switch goes off, a light turns on, and people become, you know, dedicated, like missionaries for the mushroom in essence. And it sounds like that's a similar thing to what's happened with you, and it's a really beautiful thing, and it makes it makes the mission, it gives the path and the mission much more depth and deliciousness and juiciness, you know.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, before you ask another question, there's something you just said that I would like to throw a slightly different perspective on and just see how this lands for you. So I consider this to be one of the quote secrets that has come to me. It doesn't have to stay a secret, which is why I'm saying it. So you mentioned past lives a moment ago, and from where I sit, I'll say that I no longer believe in past lives, but that it's actually more subtle than that. It's that there's technically, from where I sit now, there are, and most people find this, if they look at it, they find it super beneficial to contemplate, which is why I'm bringing it up. Okay. So the concept of past lives makes sense while we're sitting here and we seem to remember it. Okay, so everybody's talking about past lives. Now, what I find funny is that all the spiritual gurus who talk about how there is no past and there is no future, there's only now, and then they go talking about past lives. I'm wait, you just said there's no past, and now you're talking about past lives. So there must be a discrepancy or maybe an insight that would change that. What I see is that every life is happening right now. There's one being living in all seeming lives. It's just the one life living in all lives, and all lifetimes are now. All lifetimes are now, and I'm the one living all of them. So rather than this concept of accessing past lives, it's more a matter of accessing all lives that are now. And this is the weirdest insight of all, almost impossible to put into words, so I put it as close as I can. The more I become completely present in this moment, the more I'm able to access the me, the power, the magic, the creativity, etc., that's in other lives that I'm living now. So it's like I'm touching all these other lives and activating more in me. And then I find out that this me is a cell, so to speak, in the body of the actual me, which is all those lives. It's getting away from that idea that any of it past, it's all available to me now. And that actually returns my power of creation to me. So for whatever it's worth.
No, of course. I mean, yeah, I did the you know, simultaneous lives, or however one wants to look at it. I think past lives is it's from our perspective, it makes sense because it's linear. But I'm with you 100%. And then that conversation gets even more fascinating, because then, you know, actions that I take now in this body will affect and ripple out all the other bodies and all the other actions that I'm taking, which can then alter the course of human history. And so like we can literally change the past and change, you know, like, I mean, if all humans were on board, Atlantis never has to fall, you know. So these are fun concepts that I like to deploy with as well. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
100% with you. 100% with you there. What so what is your do you know what the dose was that you took that day? I'm curious when you had that experience.
yeah, pretty much I do. Although I've got to say, and you probably know this better than anybody, actually. I know you're very researched in this area. Working with Regalis or Muscaria or Pantherina, the three versions I know, as well as getting Regalis from this region or that region. And like wines, this year, the harvest is different because of weather. So the dose is relevant and not, and again, I know you know that better than anyone. I've literally done a few capsules, a few milligrams, and had a 20x experience to another day with the same. Yeah. So that would have been I was working with Regalis powder. You didn't have any capsules at the time. Dang. And it would have been about a teaspoon of Regalis powder that was in my tea, and then almost a teaspoon. Now working out milligrams, that would be
Yeah,
yeah.
it's probably about 2 grams per teaspoon, roughly. So
Okay.
if it's like almost 2 teaspoons, that's like maybe 3.5, 4 grams of
Yeah, I would
Regalis
have been
butter,
close to 4
which is about the equivalent of like 10, 12 grams of Muscaria. That's a pretty good dose. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good dose for being out in downtown Seattle for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
and,
a
and
lot
with
for
me
being
and with me saying how I'm so not a city person, our intention was to be done and out and across the river, out walking into the mountains by then, and we didn't make it out. So yeah, I had quite an experience being in the city and walking around talking. At one point, had to kind of find a quiet restaurant place to sit and process the rest of it.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I'm really interested in you. So one of the things that we're working on is, well, I'll have a facilitator training coaching course, so the Amanita coaching course done within the next, handful of months, I think. And then another thing that we're really interested in doing is that we're in the process of putting together, but haven't quite started. Although we're experimenting behind closed doors, we'll say is starting Amanita ceremonies, and there are a handful of people that do this on really small scale, but we're at an advantage just because we have such a large customer base and following of people, and network that we could the goal is to build up Amanita facilitators and Amanita ceremonies all around the world. And I wonder if I have strong feelings that maybe you're meant to be a part of that in some sense. So I think that I wanted to plant that seed with you here, right now, and maybe that's something that we can discuss over the next few weeks as to like what that might look like. But so that out of the way, what's been your experience? I know we only have like 9 minutes left or so, but what's been your experience working with other people utilizing Amanita, and like how do you guide them and navigate them through that realm and those experiences for themselves, and how to get the most out of it for themselves?
Well, that's what a beautiful idea. This idea. I mean, I am every single day. I thank infinity, which I am, for the fact that I still made Amanita legal. That it is like wow. Looking at it from I wear conspiratorial eyeglasses quite a bit looking at this. Yeah, and I just go, wow, the fact, like, okay, they aren't as smart as I thought, because they don't even see this. And wow, what a ally Amanita is. And so for me, working with the question you're asking, working with people on with I'm having Amanita, I have a different experience, and the people I work with have a different experience if I'm working with Amanita while I'm working with them, whether they're working with Amanita or not. So there's that, and then there's working with people, having it. And I'll say that first and foremost, have led many plant experiences individually with people and in groups, many. And Amanita opens an entirely different world with the fact that the most microdose, someone who's not looking for a buzz at all, just the most microdose, touches these wisdom centers in us and facilitates different conversations. For me, similar to San Pedro, Wachuma, the way that a mid to larger amount of cactus touches and opens and really activates the wisdom centers. That's how I perceive it. I find similar effect from the most microdose of Amanita. It's really about the calming and the touching those deeper wisdoms. So it facilitates any work. Like I gotta say, in that respect realm, legal schmiegel, I don't like, the vast majority of laws are written by controlling people to manipulate. Like I have any respect for idiotic legality and this idea that any plant or related substance could be illegal. It's just utter total insanity to me. And I also do not invite disaster upon myself, okay, walking in wisdom.
For sure. Yeah.
So I take such a respect with all plants and all entheogenic materials. And so, like, when I share Amanita with people, my first thing that I say, usually 20 or 30 times, is listen, just have time, just microdose, just do the tiniest micro amounts, get very, very, very familiar before you even think about stepping up to an amount that you can feel. Because if you ain't ready, you're gonna see some shit. You're gonna move through some stuff. Meet this thing with respect. And that's true with all. And God, boy, do I feel that with Amanita. So up to this point, my only experience working with people who are working with Amanita in their bodies has been at microdose levels. I have not pushed it beyond that. And if and when I'm inspired to do so, I will. I will just say that with all those scenarios I just gave you, for me, Amanita helps the person to be slower, calmer, touching deeper places within themselves, and really eases there's quite a bit of releasing of resistance when microdosing Amanita, in my experience. It's a very calming, I guess I'm okay. That's what I see. And this idea of, wow, Amanita ceremonies, yeah, I can see your practitioners are going to have to really. I know something about you, Christian. I know, even though this is our first time really, really having an in-depth conversation, I know that you meet this sacredly. I know that you meet this with seriousness, gravity of, wow, like, don't hand someone 40 grams of. And I also know you want to work with people who are, as they say in Hawaii, pono. Like, you want to work with people that are absolutely sincere, 100% intending benefit. This isn't you're not in this just for profit any more than I am. And you're serious about the mission. When I think about people being taught with respect and wisdom how to administer this and share it with people, that's really, really exciting for me. We just completed our first practitioner run. So I've been doing this 15 years, and we just had our first 100 people go through our practitioner program. And I am sure a lot of those people, many of them I've already shared Amanita with, a lot of them would be very interested in integrating Amanita into what they're doing.
Yeah, that's anybody getting on board at that level is doing really a tremendous amount of good in this world. And so, yeah, I mean, that's my interest here. Like I've always said that, like, my goal is to have the largest positive impact that I can on humanity. Like that's that's why I'm here, you know. But yeah, the ceremony thing it's tricky, particularly when you're getting into high doses of Amanita. That container that needs to be held, and this is really true with any ceremony, but it's a different container that will need to be held on Amanita than it is on ayahuasca, particularly when you get into really high doses of Amanita, because like it can get wild. So yeah, it's something that we're, you know, in the process of trying to figure out and balance, and there's inevitably going to be, you know, learning along the way as we go. So then, you know, obviously, like, I hate even saying like harm reduction. It's because maybe it's not harm reduction, but like how do you, you know, maximize the benefits while minimizing any potential, you know, negatives that could come from it, or discomfort or whatever. Because like on super high doses of Amanita, like people can, we're talking heroic doses. Like if we dabble into that realm, people can get really confused and like act out things and get stuck in time loops. And like in a group setting with like 15, 20 people, like you could see some issues, you know, propagating from that. So yeah, it's something that we're learning to figure out and balance. Look, man, I know you got to get going. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate this conversation. This has been fun. I think we could rap about this for hours and hours. So maybe we can do it again at some point. But yeah, thank you, Brian, for being you and doing what you do, and for our relationship, and for all the support you've given, you know, us and the support right now that you're giving our community. Yeah, I look forward to more discussions and hopefully working together in a larger capacity at some point.
Let's do it, man. Yeah, I look forward. I can already see another interview following this one where we have a little bit more time. Appreciate you, Christian. Thanks, everybody. Aloha.
Yeah, thank you, guys. See ya.